Tom Bombadil is the Witch King? Hey you, welcome to Lore Galore, where we cover the best shows and worlds. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get right into the latest video. Today I'm going to take a deep dive into 5 Lord of the Rings theories, fan theories, that people like to speculate on. And we're going to look at the 5 most insane, but possibly true ones. So enjoy and hit that subscribe button. Let's get right into it. So Galadriel gave each member of the Fellowship a gift before they left her forest kingdom, and although most of them didn't get to choose what gift that would be, Legolas was given a fancy new bow, and Pippin and Merry both got new daggers, but Gimli got to choose his gift and asked Galadriel for a strand of her hair. Instead of giving him just one, Galadriel actually gave Gimli 3 hairs, and there appears to be more to that. So according to a fan story, or a fan theory, they think that Galadriel actually considers Gimli more worthy than Fëanor. So thousands of years before this, there was a man named Fëanor who made a reputation for his cruelty and general lack of kindness. So he asked Galadriel for a strand of her hair and was denied. He asked twice more and was denied both times. Galadriel apparently bestowed these hairs on Gimli because she considered him more worthy of them than Fëanor, probably because of his inherent goodness. She also successfully dissed Fëanor, which just reaffirms her position as the best elf in all of Middle-earth. Tom Bombadil is the Witch King? This one is potentially the most interesting one that I have seen. So he's obviously one of the oldest things in Middle-earth, if you don't know that, and he's also one of the most strangely magical. So he was cut out of the films, which was upsetting to many of us fans, and his time in the books suggests that he is a kind figure, and after all, Bombadil saves the hobbits from Old Man Willow and puts them up in his own home. It seems then that Bombadil is simply a pacifist, content with doing good works and leaving well enough alone. But one theory suggests that Bombadil's real identity is actually much more sinister, though, arguing that Bombadil may be the deeply menacing Witch King of Angmar. And this theory points out that Bombadil wears the One Ring briefly and is unaffected by it, and he can also see Frodo when he has the ring on. So it points out that the Council of Elrond is unwilling to leave the ring with Bombadil, and that Bombadil may have placed the Barrow Wights where they were and removed them later to help the hobbits. Obviously, it's unclear why Bombadil's identity would be necessary or even useful for the Witch King, but that doesn't make this theory any less cool, and it's fun to think about. Now this one is a little absurd, but it's kind of interesting, so I'm gonna explain it and talk about it. Gandalf isn't really a wizard. Now I know what you're thinking, that one's crazy and it sounds absurd, but we see Gandalf do powerful magic throughout the trilogy, and at least that's certainly what it seems like. One Dungeons and Dragons enthusiast has suggested that Gandalf wasn't really a wizard at all, but was instead a high-level fighter who simply knew how to use magic. The theory argues that most of the spells that Gandalf performs are fairly low level and could be explained by his ring and staff, which allow him to store magic. In addition, the theory says that it seems as though Gandalf spends a lot more time in the trilogy fighting than he does actually using spells, even in his fight with the Balrog. And the theorist explains that Gandalf pretends to be a wizard to lure opponents into a trap because everyone knows to rush the wizard before he can do too much damage. If the wizard turns out to be a highly intelligent fighter though, then everyone who just rushed him is probably done for. That one probably isn't true, but it's interesting nonetheless. Now this one's actually pretty interesting. The theory says Gollum killed Frodo's parents. It's not talked about in the films, but in the books, they do a pretty good job explaining that Frodo's parents are dead because of a strange boating accident. This gives Frodo fewer ties to the Shire, but there are some who have suggested that the deaths of Frodo's parents wasn't an accident after all. So the theory says, after the events of The Hobbit, Gollum only had 2 clues to base his hunt for the ring on: the words Shire and Baggins, as we know from the films. when he says Shire and Baggins. But if Gollum had come upon any Baggins in the Shire, he would have almost certainly have killed them. And the theory also says that the suspicious circumstances surrounding Frodo's parents' death, with many in the Shire arguing exactly how it happened, and both hobbits were experienced boaters. Both his parents were experienced boaters, so it seems really unlikely that they would simply fall into the water and die. Gollum murdering them makes sense, except for the fact that Gandalf claims that Gollum never made it to the Shire. It's a pretty neat idea, and who knows, maybe it's true. And finally, we have the last theory. Snow White is a Lord of the Rings sequel. Now, hear me out. I know this one sounded crazy too when I heard it, but as you look into it, it starts to make maybe a little bit of sense. So this theory is pretty far-fetched, but there's actually quite a bit of evidence to back it up. This theory suggests that Snow White is a descendant of Arwen and Aragorn, and that her ability to commune with nature is because of her elven blood. What's more, Snow White is mentioned in elven hymns as a goddess, so naming your daughter after such a goddess seems like a plausible move, right? The theory also claims that the geography of Snow White matches that of Middle-earth, and points out that the dwarves that she interacts with could easily fit into the universe from Lord of the Rings. The number 7 is also suspicious, suggesting that perhaps these are the last 7 dwarves, and they're only still alive because they were once the bearers of the Rings of Power. The theory then concludes with its mountains of evidence by arguing that the prince is probably Gandalf, and the mirror is Sauron in disguise. It may sound convoluted, but the proposers managed to make it work. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. However, most likely, none of these are true. But I hope you enjoyed pondering some of these insane fan theories. Some of them have more evidence than others. But like I said, most of them probably are not true. Like I said, but it's just still fun to think about. It's fun to put some of these little facts and tidbits together. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.